promise. Someday we was gonna make it big.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Dom Griffin. I'm a film critic, and you're watching the Armchair Auteur. It's a video project I have where we talk about movies. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. I put out videos every week, especially in this whole quarantine situation where I review films, talk about like old movies, look at directors' works, things like that. And if that's your kind of jam, just hit that button. Today we're going to be reviewing the new film Capone, directed by Josh Trank, starring Tom Hardy, about Al Capone, the world-famous gangster, in his ailing years. This is not a film that's like a big biopic about this guy's entire history as a mobster. Instead, it picks up near the end of his life after he's been released from prison and has syphilitic dementia. Fun stuff. And we just follow the last couple years of this guy's life as he loses his mind and shits himself a lot. Before we get into the movie, I want to talk a little bit of background about Josh Trank. So you guys may know that Josh Trank is a filmmaker who directed the film Chronicle in 2012, which is like a largely pretty good, mostly okay movie, sort of like a found footage, experimental look at like the superhero genre. I watched it for the first time this week, and I liked it. There's like nice stuff in it, but overall, like the ending's kind of like trash, and like it's largely overrated. Trank also is responsible for the 2015 Fox disaster reboot of The Fantastic Four, a movie that is not any good, but is also not quite as bad as you've been led to believe. Me personally, I watched the Fantastic Four reboot a few months after it came out, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought there was some good stuff in it. I thought it was not the complete, unmitigated disaster everyone thought it was, and I kind of get what Trank was going for. I understand what he seemed to be interested in with the source material, even if I think that the execution was off, even if I think that the studio probably interfered too much, even if I think that having read every like production teardown of that movie, that it was just doomed from the start. The guy made 2 movies, and he got those movies because of a short like Star Wars parody video he made. So he's like a pretty like new filmmaker to the world. But after Fantastic Four failed, and he had the audacity, in some people's eyes, to publicly come out and say that his version would have been better than what the studio put out, there was a backlash towards Josh Trank. You know what I mean? Like, it seemed like he was the kind of guy who didn't want to acknowledge his own fault in making the movie. It seemed like he's maybe just like too immature to be leading a big budget production like that. Maybe like he needs to like take a step back before moving forward in the industry or whatever. A lot of conflicting opinions about him. If you're curious to know more about Josh Trank, there's a huge future story written about him that I'll look in the comments that kind of outlines like his entire like, you know, story. But after that movie failed and he was offered like TV projects and different things, he wanted to like take a step back and do a film that was like more personal and would let people know what his personal identity is like. You know, because Chronicle is like sort of a co-production jam with Max Landis, you know, other garbage person, the guy that wrote Bright. And Fantastic Four is obviously like the Fantastic Four. So we've never really gotten to see what a Josh Trank movie is. And now we have Capone. We can now answer the question, who is Josh Trank when he's not trying to steer a big budget movie for Hollywood? And it turns out he sucks. So Capone is not a good movie. That's the only spoiler you're going to find in this video. There's no plot to spoil because the movie is so thin and basic and utterly pointless. The idea behind Capone, what I think Josh Trank was attempting to do with this movie, is he wanted to make something that was personal to him in the sense that he was working through all like the frustrations he had in Hollywood and sort of like shutting out all the haters and saying fuck the world and doing his own thing. But his own thing is like this weird mishmash where it's a movie about a sick mobster played by Tom Hardy, covered in terrible makeup. He looks like a Power Rangers villain. And it's just the end of his life. Like, he sits in a chair and like drools and like shits himself a lot, and is just like senile and like losing it and just seeing things. But because it's like a movie, all the things he sees, all of his dreams and delusions and stuff are like vivid and intense and like kind of Jacob's Ladder-y sort of. And it creates this world where we watch a guy like dying essentially very slowly, and then like weird shit just pops up, like action sequences and stuff. And we're supposed to be like wowed at how like dreamlike and incendiary it all is. But it's like not at all. What's unfortunate is that Josh Trank worked in this film with cinematographer Peter Deming, who you may know as being the cinematographer behind David Lynch's Twin Peaks: The Return. You would think a cinematographer of his skill would be able to bring like some of that like Lynchian, like dreamlike quality to the proceedings, but instead what happens is that it's just like a deeply unimaginative mess. You know, when people talk about like Inception, right? Like Inception's like this big movie about dreams and stuff, and Christopher Nolan made it. The scale and intensity of the dreams is subject to Christopher Nolan's personal visual preoccupations, right? Christopher Nolan is a filmmaker who is not that like, and he doesn't think about like sex, it seems like, in his movies, or certain like metaphysical things. So, you know, the dreams in a Christopher Nolan movie like Inception are all like fake Bond sci-fi stuff. It's all like very like, you know, like Nolan-y, right? And then a filmmaker like David Lynch or someone, you know, finds like a more interesting range of things to explore in the dream space. Josh Trank is like, I feel like Josh Trank is trying to get out of the shell of being sort of like a nerd bro filmmaker, like someone who can only make things in like genre and like the superhero world, only cater to like, you know, that sort of space. But in doing so, he is just exposing himself as being literally that guy. Like, he does not appear to have an interesting enough imagination to make a movie about an ailing gangster's dreams compelling. Like, it's just not interesting. Having scenes of like Tom Hardy in like old man makeup just like grunting and making sounds, and then all of a sudden he's got a Tommy gun running around his house, like, that should be more entertaining. Like, if I just said that to you, that sounds kind of cool. But when you're watching it, there is just nothing about it that makes it interesting at all. Add to that, the entire thing's shot like on digital video, and it has this weird like high definition look. You know, most people that shoot a video now, like, either have figured out how to make video feel more like film, or they accept that video is video, and like that's just what everyone shoots on now. But here, it feels like the way video looked like in the like early 2010s, like mid 2000s, when we were still like figuring out how to use the medium in replace of film, and it makes everything seem kind of like heightened, but not in like a good way. It means that all of the dream sequences, which are supposed to be like these weird, dark, gloomy, exciting pieces, and all the scenes of him just like laying in bed look the same. They both just look equally like a YouTube video or something. It doesn't really function whatsoever. There's no push and pull or tension between reality and this unreality. And that would make sense if you were trying to make a statement about the way our minds fail us and the way we kind of like get trapped in like the back corridors of our own minds or something. But that's not really what he's doing. It literally is just a bunch of scenes of Al Capone shitting himself, and then it cuts to like kooky, crazy stuff happening, but that stuff's not that crazy either. It would even work and make sense if it seemed like Josh Trank was willfully making a like meta dissection of the gangster genre or something, like he was like going to pick apart the Untouchables, but he's not doing that either. It's just this guy sharing with us what he thinks are crazy, fucked up dreams, and like they're not crazy or fucked up, they're just there. In particular, there's a scene when Capone watches someone stab a guy like multiple times. It's supposed to be so grisly and visceral and like, oh, he stabbed this guy like 30 times, oh my god. But when you're watching it, it just doesn't feel that visceral, really. Like, the blood looks fake and squibby, and like, it's pointless. I don't know what's going on or why. There's like smaller supporting turns at the edges of the picture. Like, Matt Dillon plays like a gangster friend of his, and like he's actually interesting enough in the movie. Linda Cardellini seems to be really stoked about playing the wife again in a movie, so she's just there. Neil Brennan pops up, co-creator of the Dave Chappelle Show, as like Capone's lawyer. It's supposed to be like this weird, crazy, unique movie, but it's just not. It's like an unwatchable mess, and it's not fun. And I know what you're thinking right now. Oh, well, even if the movie's bad, at least Tom Hardy's got to be good, right? Wrong. Tom Hardy is fucking terrible in this movie. It is easily the worst fucking thing Tom Hardy's ever done in his entire career. Like, I'm kind of like a Venom truther. I sort of think that Tom Hardy's performance in that movie is like actually really brilliant, and that he's doing like two separate performances as, you know, Eddie Brock and as the Suit, and it's like a really cool thing. It's like he's split this performance between these two different characters, and it's like really fascinating, even though the movie's like kind of whatever. This is like the opposite of that. This makes Venom look like a fucking Jacques Tati movie. Like, it is terrible. It is bad. I fell asleep in the middle of the movie when I was watching my screener twice, and so I rewatched like the middle hour of the movie like more, you know, like several times before I could like really kind of get through it. And when it was all over, I was just like happy. I didn't feel anything. I didn't learn anything. I wasn't stoked to ponder anything. It was just like, oh, that's over. Sweet. And I can't imagine anybody else watching this movie and feeling anything differently. What's crazy about it is that, like, there are things that he tries to do here that I'm sort of on board with. Like, the scenes with Capone and Matt Dillon's character are meant to evoke this sort of, like, wounded machismo of, like, these men, these towering, like, crime heroes, like, in a world, like, that doesn't really, like, have space for them anymore. And there's, like, this sort of sullenness about him having to look at this broken-down man he used to look up to as, like, this big boss. It kind of reminds me of Better Call Saul when Lalo Salamanca shows up, and you see him with Hector, and he's like talking to him, and like he looks at this like broken, brittle man in a wheelchair, and like misses the badass he used to look up to, and he like slips him some liquor and is like talking about the good old times, and it's this really touching scene. And they do that in like a minute and a half in a scene on Better Call Saul. And that minute and a half is better than this entire fucking movie. There's multiple scenes like that in this movie, and none of them work. They're just inert, and they don't feel real or lived in or anything. It's embarrassing. And there's just no real plot. I mean, that's fine if you're going for like meditative art movie, tone poem or whatever, but like if you don't have any substance to those visuals or those ideas or anything, then a plot would have been nice. I mean, it sets up this whole thing where like Capone had a bunch of money buried somewhere, but he can't remember it because he's like got dementia, and you think that's going to be like something. It's not. It's just something he talks about. And even if you're trying to make a statement about how if you're a monster and you do crime and you do a crime and a bad thing, and then like, you know, eventually you get your comeuppance in life, like that's not that either. It's just a mishmash of shit. It just doesn't work. Now, the fact that this movie sucks is like, whatever, okay? I went into this wanting to give Josh Trank, like, all the room in the world to prove himself. Because, like I said, I like parts of Chronicle, and I think that Fantastic Four could have been, you know, worse. I feel like the guy maybe has something to share with the world. But after reading that big feature story on him and watching this movie, I don't think he does. I think he kind of sucks, and I think that, like, he's probably gotten a good amount of chances now, and, like, maybe that guy should be in director jail. But I don't think this is the last we're going to hear of him, you know? Like, there are so many filmmakers who, if they get one movie wrong or they make a failure, that's it for them. We don't see them make a movie forever. They got to, like, start back over doing episodes of television if they're lucky. And for some reason, there's certain guys that just get to, like, fail upwards, you know? And I'm concerned that Josh Trank is going to turn on one of those guys, where he's going to make this shitty movie, and we're all going to hate it, and we're all going to think it sucks. It's not going to be successful. It's out on VOD today. It's not coming into the theater because of coronavirus. And then, maybe in a few years, he has another fucking movie, you know? Just based on, like, will, I guess? I don't know. I'm just bummed out watching these, like, white, nerdy movie bros for all things like Spielberg making mediocre movies and just getting propped up by journalists that kind of like them or whatever, and I'm just kind of sick of that shit, I guess. And I'd be grateful if just these people stopped getting to make movies. All that said, Capone is like a weird enough shitty movie that where I would not be surprised if within 6 months people are defending it as being like really advanced or like pretending it's actually a lot better than it really is. And it's not. Trust me, someone will try to tell you it's actually secretly really cool, and they're lying to you. In 6 months, if that person is me, I am lying to you. If you see me on this channel telling you I was wrong about Capone, I've been replaced by a pod person. Please come put a bullet in my forehead. Those are my feelings on Capone, guys. You can buy it on VOD today if you want to, but I suggest you save your money for literally any other movie product. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments to share about Josh Trank or his movies or this movie, please leave them in the comment section below. I'm thinking about shaving my head because I'm going mad not being able to get a haircut. If you think I should shave my head, tell me that in the comments below. And again, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the little bell icon so you get notifications when I put new videos. There will be more videos coming out this week, so keep an eye out. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day and stay safe.